9 Deadly Human Xenomorphs. Although Alien Resurrection's Newborn was the source of utter disappointment to most Alien fans, it becomes all the more important to rework the same and bring out a hybrid between humans and xenomorphs as the prime antagonist. The 2017 film Covenant ended with David getting control of the accurate fodder for his evil experiments, a ship full of people. So there we have a slight possibility of seeing a human-xenomorph hybrid, but we can only hope for such things. While you wait for the next installment, Marvelous Videos thought it was best to keep the fire burning. So in this video, we have compiled a list of 9 deadly xenomorph variants that had their DNA spliced with human DNA. This sort of genetic splicing not only makes the creature more terrifying, but also gives them several human traits, be it with respect to physical appearance or their psyche. Let's explore these grotesque abominations that have been featured in films and comics. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Beautiful butterfly.
Number 1. Newborn. The Newborn appeared in the 1997 film Alien Resurrection. It was a hybrid between a human and a xenomorph and was born on USM Auriga. It came to life as a byproduct of the experiments that the United States military personnel were carrying out. The xenomorph queen they were experimenting upon got contaminated with human DNA, and the same granted her the ability to develop a secondary reproductive system in a womb. The queen gave birth to the newborn. But instead of seeing the queen as its mother, it saw Ripley 8 as its true mother, and it killed the xenomorph queen. However, in a last-ditch attempt to save the others, Ripley killed the newborn by having it sucked into space. In appearance, the newborn looked far from a regular xenomorph and was as humanoid as a xenomorph could get. Since it resulted from live birth, it didn't go through the typical reproductive stages of an ovomorph, facehugger, and chest buster. Almost twice the size of a regular xenomorph drone, it was strong and resilient. The newborn's head didn't just possess humanoid eyes, nose, and mouth, but its skull fused with its upper back. Furthermore, it lacked dorsal tubes, inner jaws, and tail features that are common to all xenomorph drones. Unlike the dark biomechanical texture that other xenomorphs possess, the newborn had fleshier and paler skin. The humanoid traits were not just limited to its physical attributes, but extended to its psyche as well. The newborn could perceive and display a fair vast range of emotions for a xenomorph. Apart from showing a childlike cruel innocence and curiosity, it felt and displayed sadness, affection, and anger. Furthermore, it showed a strong sense of reverence towards Ripley 8, whom it considered its mother. However, the newborn's physical appearance is quite different from what Joss Whedon had written in the initial script. Whedon's creature was supposed to be an ivory white creature with 6 limbs, etc. Number 2. Anchorpoint Xenomorph. The Anchorpoint hybrid appeared in the comics titled Alien 3: The Unproduced Screenplay. William Gibson was initially approached to write the script for Alien 3, but the script was never adapted into a movie. Years later, it was announced that the unproduced script would be adapted into a comic series. As it was a script for the 3rd installment of the Alien franchise, it naturally picks up after the second film Aliens ends. After a fierce and thrilling battle, Ripley manages to expel the xenomorph queen into outer space during the climax. The film ends with Newt being saved by Bishop and Ripley, and Newt settling down for their journey home. According to the comics, the spaceship called Sulaco was carrying Bishop, Newt, Hicks, and Ripley. However, the Union of Progressive People intercepts the Sulaco. But what the Union of Progressive Peoples didn't know was that the Sulaco was carrying another passenger, a deadly beast that was about to unleash all hell. This beast was a hybrid xenomorph born out of Susan Wells, a character from Alien 3 Unproduced Screenplay. The Anchorpoint Xenomorph, or the New Beast, was a non-canon xenomorph, as you would have figured by now. It was pretty different from other xenomorphs as far as its design and birth are concerned. Unlike other xenomorphs who were implanted inside a host by a facehugger impregnation, the New Beast was born when xenomorph DNA got spliced with human DNA on a molecular level to give rise to an ovomorph. When this ovomorph finds itself in close proximity to a host, it gets liquefied only to shoot spore-like formations into the air. This process process allows the host to get infected, and after a gestation period of a few hours, the host undergoes an extremely violent transformation, which ends in a xenomorph bursting out of the host's body. This is exactly what happened to poor Susan Wells. A similar process was witnessed in the film Covenant when two unfortunate crew members had disturbed mutated spores. However, those spores resulted in the formation of neomorphs instead of xenomorphs. Due to the splicing of human DNA at a pre-impregnation stage, the new beast had several humanoid features, like a humanoid nose, small, beady eyes, separated fingers, etc. Interestingly enough, when the new beast met with a typical xenomorph drone, the latter opted to kill the new beast instead of the humans in the vicinity. This clearly signals the fact that xenomorphs didn't see the new beast as one of their own. Probably the new beast was as much an abomination to xenomorphs as a predalien is to yautjas. Number 3. Eloise. Eloise was a hybrid between an android and a xenomorph. Created by Dr. Fred Lichtner, Eloise was brought to life using a unique technique. Fred used leprosy spores as a carrier to infect an ovomorph with a computer-designed biological virus. He managed to rewrite and delete desired data chains in the DNA, which caused the ovomorph to give birth to an android-xenomorph hybrid instead of a typical xenomorph. Eloise turned out to be a surprise creation, but a valuable asset nonetheless. He used her to further his research on xenomorphs and dry leprosy. He figured that the disease was able to slow the developmental stage of a xenomorph embryo after the embryo was put inside a host. However, the facility was soon bought by the Adelaide and Bombay Holdings Alliance. These started a mass slaughter of both xenomorphs and lepers. Eloise could relate to both of them, and she turned against the Alliance. After this, Eloise and her brood took shelter on the tropical planet of LK-176, but reaching the destination was not quite easy because Alliance personnel were pursuing them. As you may have guessed, this pursuit attracted the attention of the yautjas as well, who saw Eloise and her brood as worthy prey. When the Alliance personnel finally tracked Eloise to planet LK-176, they were sandwiched between the wrath of both yautjas and Eloise's xenomorph brood, but Eloise managed to survive both yautjas and the Alliance and emerge victoriously. However, she did let go of one of the Alliance members named Lotus Hernandez so that he could inform his superiors of the strength she and her brood enjoyed and that they wished to be left alone in peace and that any action otherwise would mean an act of war. As far as her appearance is concerned, she looked like a human from the front, but her back had dorsal spines protruding from it. Her hands were shaped like xenomorph claws. Her hybrid nature gave her the combined strength and speed and stamina of a xenomorph and an android. Because she possessed a strand of queen DNA, she could telepathically communicate with the xenomorphs and made efficient use of this power when in battle. Number 4. Elizabeth Shaw. The film Covenant showed us what exactly a droid could do if he wished for it. David experimented religiously with the black liquid and managed to create several monstrosities that we know by the name of neomorphs. The film had potently set the stage for an encounter with a hybrid between a human and a xenomorph because of the revelation that he had slaughtered Shaw and was experimenting further with Shaw's mutilated corpse, especially her reproductive organs. However, the makers of the film chose not to go down that road, probably in an attempt to avoid the recreation of another newborn from resurrection. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we will, in the future, not be seeing another cross between the two species. The genetic splicing could well be around the corner in the next entry of the Alien franchise. The reason why we are saying this is that the earliest drafts of Covenant included Shaw turning into a tragic but grotesque monster with both human and xenomorph traits. Furthermore, the bleak ending of the film left the evil David in charge of hundreds of humans in stasis for him to carry out his nefarious and immoral experiments. This would be the perfect setting for what is to come, an unseen hybrid that would beat the newborn in all ways possible, be it appearance, rage, or hostility. David initially wanted Shaw to cooperate with him while trying to make her the perfect organism, or at least while trying to make the perfect organism using her. But when she refused, he murdered her in cold blood and carried on with his experiments anyway. But there's also a possibility that she is still alive, somehow, somewhere, probably stuck up on some wall, waiting to meet her xenomorph or protomorph child. This makes sense because she is more worthwhile to David alive than dead. She is the only woman he had with him, and using her uterus, he could create more monstrosities. Also, he seems to be sharing some kind of sexual feelings toward her, and naturally, these feelings reflect in the sexual imagery that xenomorphs bring with themselves. After all, the sequels portray him to be behind most of the action behind the creation of the monsters. But all this is mere speculation, and nothing could be said for sure until, and unless, the next entry hits the theaters. Number 5. Rogue Xenomorph. In 1993, Dark Horse Comics released a miniseries called Aliens Rogue. In this intense and strong story, Professor Ernst Kleist works for the ZCT Corporation, while John Gray works for the competitor Grant Corporation. Gray goes to work with Kleist, who has a dangerous plan to create an artificial king xenomorph by altering the biology and psychology of captured xenomorphs. Initially, Kleist suffers failures and setbacks, but after Gray's cover is blown, he splices Gray's DNA with the xenomorph and successfully creates the king xenomorph. The Rogue became the final result of the gene splicing that Kleist carried out under Project Chimera on Charon Base. The Rogue was an enormously huge male xenomorph, or a xenomorph king. It was supposed to serve as a tame counterpart of a xenomorph queen and the xenomorph drones, but things didn't quite go as planned. Although the Rogue was tamer than usual xenomorphs because it didn't attack humans, the same cannot be said regarding its future actions that proved to be catastrophic for itself and the humans in the vicinity. When the Rogue learned about the existence of a queen in the vicinity, he broke his containment and charged towards her, and in the process, it broke the barricade that separated the xenomorph drones from human settlement. The king probably felt his authority challenged by the queen, and the two of them challenged and attacked each other to gain supremacy over the other. The Rogue King first subdued and slaughtered the Praetorians that were protecting the queen and then charged on her. Although he was bigger and stronger than the queen, he lacked fighting experience and the intelligence that the queen enjoyed. Eventually, the queen slaughtered the Rogue King and proved that nature wins over science. An important thing to note here is that there is an endless debate about the gender of xenomorphs. While it is quite a possibility that they are hermaphrodites, Rogue has been addressed as he and him because it was created by splicing the DNA of a man. Number 6. Bugmen. In the previous entry, we saw that Ernst Kleist was a man who wanted to do good but with flawed methods. Well, he wasn't so good after all. He led a group of terrorists called the Bugmen. These people terrorized specific sectors of space and addressed Kleist as father. They were essentially hybrids of xenomorphs and humans and had heavily mutated because of constant exposure to the royal jelly, the prized possession of the xenomorphs, which helped in the transformation of a drone into a Praetorian or a Praetorian into a queen. Naturally, they had some degree of influence over the xenomorphs and could also communicate with them. Their sole intention was to give wind to the xenomorph infestation in various human colonies, but they also abducted humans so that they could be turned into more bugmen. Their menace only came to an end after one Lieutenant Joseph Henry and his Marines sacrificed their lives to annihilate the base of operation of the bugmen, and the event also killed Kleist. Number 7. Catherine Fortune. During an expedition on Mount Erebus in 1928, Catherine Fortune had been impregnated with a queen chestbuster. However, the chestbuster never came out of her body because the chestbuster's growth rate slowed down by leprosy that she had contracted at an earlier stage of her expedition. Despite knowing the presence of an alien lifeform in her body, she declined its removal from her body because the queen chestburster highly enhanced her reflexes and instincts. Furthermore, it caused her to have increased strength, speed, and stamina, and naturally, her life expectancy increased significantly. In the later part of her life, Catherine Fortune conducted experiments using her DNA, which had now been altered due to the alien presence. She even spliced her DNA using the biomatter of some of the most notorious prisoners of Arkham Asylum, namely Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, the Joker, and Two-Face. These 5 hybrids were entirely sentient and sapient and were capable of fluent speech. Furthermore, they were inherently combat-ready and trained, a capability that they probably received from the genetic memory of the supervillain DNA that they had in themselves. In the comics, they easily overwhelmed the best special forces personnel of various countries. In the end, it was Batman who defeated these 5 hybrids, just like he had successfully defeated the men and women they were created from. As for Catherine Fortune, she was killed by a Killer Croc hybrid with a head bite, another one of her creations. Number 8. White Hybrids. The white hybrids appeared in Aliens vs. Predator, Deadliest of the Species. They were an artificially formed race created by splicing the DNA of humans, Yautjas, and Xenomorphs. When the comics came out, the white hybrids appeared as an abomination that was never seen before in the history of the Alien franchise. They were formed by an AI computer mainframe named Toy, which was a revolutionary technology that served as a conscious gaming and environment nexus. Its primary function was to transform dreams into realities. Because the white hybrids were a grotesque amalgamation of humans, predators, and xenomorphs, they bore characteristics of all three species. Their reproductive process was similar to that of a typical xenomorph by virtue of facehuggers and chestbusters, and like other xenomorphs, they also lived in a eusocial society. Furthermore, they had acidic blood, but they could also use firearms and communicate with each other like predators and humans. During the course of the story, we also get to see an unholy unity between humans, a predator named Big Mama, and a xenomorph queen. They all come together to fight the abomination of all abominations, the White Hybrid King. In the end, they are helped by a xenomorph that erupted out of a synthetic named Karen. The newly born xenomorph saw Karen as its true mother and helped in killing the white hybrids because it saw them as a threat to its mother. Number 9. Mega City 1 Queen. This queen appeared in the comic Predator vs. Judge Dredd vs. Aliens Splice and Dice. It was an epic sci-fi crossover that brought the legendary judge, jury, and sometimes executioner Judge Dredd and the galaxy's most skillful hunters, the Predators, against one common enemy who are nothing short of being the ultimate killing machines, the Xenomorphs. In the comics, Judge Dredd follows the leader of a criminal cult, but meets with a few predators who would come to rescue their abducted clan member. But things go south when Dr. Reinstadt, a mad scientist obsessed with revenge and genetic splicing, gets hold of a xenomorph skull, and by extension, the deadliest DNA of the universe. Dr. Reinstadt had found a xenomorph skull and he extracted its DNA to make xenomorph eggs. This Predallion was a formidable xenomorph with mandibles, dreadlocks, and even tusks. Although it's not a human xenomorph hybrid, we thought it was apt to mention this one on the list because it was a human who led to its creation by DNA splicing. The Alien franchise is filled with more grotesque and deadly xenomorph variants. You could check out other titles for more interesting variants like that of different types of xenomorph queens, human predators, etc. We'll leave a few links in the description. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.